Hi, welcome to the Business Boost Workshop. This is the free weekly 30-minute webinar. I'm Tamara Monosoff, and I'm delighted that you're here. I'm seeing so many of you logging in. Hi, Julie. Hi, Kathy, Gail, Bob, Michelle, Monica, Carrie, Mark. Yay! Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the country or the world. And I am delighted to share with you 6 things that you need before you contact a retail buyer. What I'd love for you to do, we have a very large group today, and so I'd love for you to jump onto the chat. Okay, good. Monica, say hello, Monica. If you could jump on the chat and just let me know if all is well and you can see my screen, and also if you can hear me okay. I'm just concerned that you can see my screen mostly. So here we go, and we're going to dive in. Let me tell you how this is going to run today. I'm going to give you 4 tips that I think you're going to really appreciate. I wish I had known these myself when I started out, and then I'm going to offer something special for you, and you can join in or not, just enjoy the tips. And then I'm going to talk about tips number 5 and 6, and 6 being the checklist that you want to have ready before you contact a retail buyer. And then I did also add in 2 bonus tips. As I was putting this together, I was like, wait a minute, there's more. And then also I want to open it up and leave time for question and answer at the end. So, okay, good. Mark, great. Okay, excellent. It makes me feel better once I know that you're seeing the screen. So we are going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. I'm so happy you're here. Great. Thanks, Julie. Okay, so the goal is to be prepared. When you're contacting a retail buyer, you want to have everything queued up and ready to go, because you may only have one chance. If you've been working with retail buyers already, then you know that they're very difficult to get a hold of, and when you do, you only have moments to engage them. And so you want to have everything ready to go, and you want to be able to give them the information that they're seeking. And so this is my goal today, is to give you some really helpful tips that you can use right away. So the very first tip is finding your category buyer, because nothing is a bigger waste of time than finally getting a hold of a retail buyer, and then they say, oh, well, that's not my category. Does this sound familiar, anyone? Because this has happened to me many times when I was starting out. So now I've gotten really good on honing in on the appropriate buyer. One of the most phenomenal tools is LinkedIn. Look at this. Right here to the right, you'll see I just typed into the search box the company that I was interested in looking for, plus buyer. So company name plus buyer. And don't put the quotation marks, by the way. I've got the quotation marks here on this slide, but it doesn't work as well. So take off those quotation marks and just put that in, and look what happens. Immediately, senior buyer at Target, senior buyer, buyer at Target, senior buyer at Target. Goes on down the list. Incredible. And what's also awesome is that they are all connected together. So you can click on all of these different people, and in their description of their LinkedIn profiles, it talks about the category that they cover. That is the quickest and fastest way for you to find buyers, first and foremost. Second of all, it's a fast way to really hone in and make sure that you are approaching the appropriate buyer from the beginning, so that you have more success right from the start. Tip number 2. Know why your product is better. Now, you know that there is likely a lot of competition out there. Or if you have a brand new product that's never been seen before, this is even more important, is to know how your product, what features and benefits it has, what makes it stand out, why do people need it and want it. And if you have evidence, you want to share that evidence of people hungry for your product. But in this situation, as you can see, if you go, back to school is right around the corner, and there are hundreds of choices for different lunchbox systems. So the question is from the buyer, why would I choose yours? I've heard this from buyers before. You're sitting at the table and they have other options available to them. Why should they give you some of their valuable real estate in their store if they have other options. So tell them why yours is different, why it's better. You know, think about it. What are your materials? Perhaps yours are made from recycled plastic or something, you know, something biodegradable. Really think about what types of really special features. And also, of course, you're going to be wanting to think about this when you're bringing your product to market. From the beginning, think about what angles you can come up with that makes yours not just a different piece of plastic, but hey, this is all food grade plastic, it's recycled materials, and whatever else you can think of that will really make the buyer stop and think about whether or not it makes sense for their store. Tip number 3, it's really important to tie in to relevant activities, especially national activities that are happening in the country. This is a great hook, and you can't assume that a buyer is going to make that leap on their own. So I have products, one of my products, the Tidy Table Cover, is fantastic for carving pumpkins. And you know, when you have a big mess, it's a disposable table cover. So it is fantastic for carving pumpkins. It's fantastic for Easter egg dyeing. I made it out of a food-safe plastic so that you could roll cookie dough on it and make cookies for your holiday treats. So you can't expect a buyer to make that mental leap. They're busy, they're stressed out people. They're trying to, you know, really make good decisions of whether or not your product makes sense, and they're trying to do it in as quickly as possible and making these really important choices. So make that leap for them. Tell them how it ties in with back to school, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever it is. See if there's a national event that your product can piggyback on, and maybe a perfect way for you to launch your product in their store. Tip number 4, this is it. Buyers need and want to make money per unit on your product. So this is the money part. If you can do everything possible to give them 50% margin, that's what they're looking for as a starting point. Now, they may go down a little bit, but this is their goal, or higher. So this is a great way for you to just think about the math. So if you can make this clear that they can make this type of money on your product, this is going to open their ears a little bit more. And so here you go. If your retail price right here is how much it's sold to the consumer is $30. So let's say your product is $30 retail. Then you need to expect to sell it wholesale to the retailer for $15. This is called 50% margin or 100% markup, which is basically just doubling the number. So doubling 15 is $30. This is where you need to be thinking about that they want to make. So let's just imagine for a moment that your production costs, what you're paying to the factory per unit, is $5. Then you know that there's $10 left over for you after you're selling it wholesale to the retailer. And so you need to figure out, is this math working for you? This table's from the How Hot Is Your Product system that I have, and it goes deeper there because we talk about what your financial goals are. But for simplicity's sake, for the purpose of this webinar, I really wanted you to just have this matrix here so that you can pop in your own numbers and see if the math is working. If the math is not working, this is where you want to start right here and see if you can get your production costs lower, because you want to do everything you can to give the retail buyer what they're looking for so that they are wanting to say yes to you right from the start. So really quick, I wanted to offer you something special because this is something that I wanted so badly when I started out. I was calling one retailer at a time, one catalog at a time, and I thought if somebody could just hand me a list, I would just be so grateful. And I didn't even know the names of so many stores. You know, I'm on the West Coast. and the East Coast and Midwest have so many different stores that I had never even heard of. And when you're searching on Google, it just takes forever to compile these lists. And so I went ahead and did that. So I created the top U.S. retail store contact list, which has over 350 retail chains. And that is essentially, those chains cover 300,000 retail stores nationwide. And then I compiled the catalog list. That's 150 catalogs with a reach of over 40 million households. That's their combined distribution. So I just wanted to offer this up. I'm offering this, is normally these two lists together are $154. I am offering to anyone on this call right now, I am offering it to you for $47. And you should have the ability to get it while we're continuing our conversation. You can just go ahead and grab it. Just really quick, I'm sure that some of you are wondering, well, what does this list look like? Here, these lists look like. This is just to give you an idea. It has the name of the stores. At the bottom, there are tabs with the different categories, and it has the website, the corporate headquarters, the telephone number, the number of stores in the chain, and then, wherever possible, the LinkedIn category buyer, VP of marketing, a point of contact for you. So if you want to do that, go ahead and grab that now, and I'm going to jump straight into tip number 5. Okay, so tip number 5 is safety testing and product liability insurance. Make sure that you know what the retail store's requirements are before you contact the buyer. I'm going to tell you a quick story because it's kind of one of those stories, a lesson learned that we can all benefit from hearing from. And I felt so badly for the entrepreneur that contacted me. She had an awesome product. She had thousands of units manufactured, ready to roll. She had contacted a major retail store and a big box store. They expressed interest. They wanted the item. They wanted to roll it out in the upcoming year. And she was so thrilled, as we all would be. And then they said, all we need is your insurance, your product liability insurance coverage. Just send us the document and your safety testing documents. And at that moment, she just froze because she hadn't thought of doing these things. And then she went to go get product liability insurance, and she couldn't because of the nature of her product. It was so insanely expensive that she couldn't. Now, have she known this ahead of time? Think about that. I mean, she would have been able to have that information and knowledge and figured out what needed to be done or modified in her product development before she went ahead and launched and had thousands of units. So I just share that story because it's one of those really eye-opening stories and lessons learned. So, it's important. You need to know. So here is Intertech. I just want to give you some really good resources. Intertech I have used many times to do product testing, and I find them to be affordable. Obviously, it depends on the kind of test. And what they will do is they'll tell you the full range of tests that you can have for your product. And what I would always say to them are which ones are necessary, which ones is a kind of a must-have, and then which ones are the other ones are kind of nice to have. So you can bring down your costs that way, but still get the safety testing that really is necessary for your product. I put this link down here. This is the Walmart specifications for product liability insurance. It's really interesting. You should check it out. They break down how much liability coverage you need for your product type. And of course, this is for their Walmart stores, but I always think this is a really good gauge because if you can get your product to pass product liability in Walmart, then you're going to be good to go for just about any other retailer in the U.S. Now, tip number 6. This is the checklist. Okay, you need to have a website because this builds credibility. I'm sure that most of you realize this at this point, but it doesn't need to be a huge fancy website, but it does need to look professional so that when the retailer checks your website out, which they will, that it really looks clean, slick, and professional, like you're a real business, okay? Then hands down, as you know, with YouTube being so unbelievably important at this point, with it being the second largest search engine in the world, you need to have a product demo. And you can do that on camera or off camera. If you don't mind being in front of the camera and you want to challenge yourself, then just grab your iPhone and do a quick little product demo. I mean, think about QVC. That's showing products all day long. And when people understand what the product is and how it works, it's going to help retail buyers go, oh yeah, I like that. Okay, it's going to give them a sense right away, and they're going to click on that product demo button because people watch videos rather than even reading. So make sure that you do that. If you want a great off-camera tool, I use Animoto, and I find it to be incredible. And you can do a free Animoto. If you go to their pricing page, you can do 30-second videos for free. And then, of course, if you want longer videos, then you'll need and more access to more of their awesome templates. Then you'll have to pay for the service. You want high quality product photos. You don't want to skimp in this area. They need to look fantastic. That's going to be used for everything anyway, so you want great photos, not only for your website, but for your packaging. When you get into this media, television, magazines, they all want to have your product photo. So that's just something you have to get, some great photos that you can send and use in all of those different capacities. Testimonials. Retailers love to see testimonials. They want to hear sales success stories. So if you have them, video testimonials are like, great, really important. If you can't get that, a photo of the person and their quote is great. And if you just have text, grab it, still use it, because you can put that into your materials that you give to the retail buyers. But the power of other people's words and their experience with your product carries a lot of weight. If you can, if your product isn't that expensive to produce, retail buyers love to see samples. They want to see retail-ready samples. They oftentimes, when I started out, I'd come to a retail buyer, I'd get that meeting, and I would have, maybe I'd have one retail-ready product, but I would bring along my prototypes of others. And, even though it's like a great opportunity to show prototypes, they will always say, we need to see what it looks like in the end. We want to see the one that can be put right up into our store shelves. So make sure that you have some samples available that you can provide. If your product is too expensive, then you can create a digital sell sheet where you've got great photos. You can embed your video. You can have some bullets on the benefits and features. Don't overwhelm with a lot of words, but you just want to make sure that they get it right away. And this is something that you can email them, and they can just click and get all the information in one place. You want to be prepared with your price list, your wholesale price list. You don't want to have them say, well, how much are you going to sell this to me for? And for you to say, well, I'll get back to you, because you need to be able to say it on the spot and be prepared. And also something that I learned that I didn't know ahead of time was that a lot of retailers want things packaged in different options. I was often asked, can you do 12 units per pack, 24 units per pack, 96 units per pack, or they'll tell you how many cartons they want in a case. I mean, it just goes on. But if you're willing to be flexible and accommodate their requests, which of course I would say do, then it can be incredibly fruitful, because they see that you're willing to make it work and give them what they're looking for. They will want to know that you have inventory available. It's really important that if you're ready, you're contacting a big box store, that if they say, okay, we want to start out and we want to put 2,000 units out into our stores, you need to make sure that you've got that available and that there's more coming. They're going to want to know if they have good sell-through, how much are you going to always have on hand should they need it. Also, again, as I mentioned, they're going to, most likely for the big stores, they're going to ask for the proof of insurance and safety testing. So I really hope that you'll get that done as soon as possible. Retail buyers love incentives. So give them discounts. Give them free shipping. Give them buy 3 boxes, get 1 free. Do what you can. Another thing I did early on that really worked and was great for me too is I offered 5% discount if they used a credit card. Now, people say, but wait a minute, the credit card company's charging you about that much. And I say, yes, they are, but guess what? If I offer a 5% discount to retailers to buy it now, they're going to pay me right away, and I'm going to have money in my bank account to help me with all of the operations and keeping inventory in stock. So I always throw out there that they get 5% extra, and amazingly, they're always like, oh my gosh, that's great. So, and you combine it, give them for their first order, give them free shipping and 5% off. Get creative and ask them what they want. Ask them, you know, what would make the deal work for them. Okay, I'm going to open up to Q&A in just a minute, but in the meantime, I just want to give you a quick little 2 bonuses. Have a thick skin and don't take the tone of a buyer personally. I've had people come to me and say, oh, I had just heartbroken because the retail buyer is just, you know, didn't like the product and wasn't very nice and it was really stressful. Okay, well, listen, try to put yourself in their shoes. That's what I always do. And I don't take it at all personally. You have to make sure that you just roll with it and be as kind as possible. And it will, you know, eventually, even if they don't take your current product, they may take one down the road. So you want to keep the relationship as positive as possible. And just know that by putting yourself in their shoes, if they make a mistake with your product and your product bombs in their store, it's all on them. So you've got to realize that they're under extreme stress and pressure to make really good buying decisions. So just keep that in mind. And if they're curt or, you know, cold or, you know, act like they don't care, it's okay. Just give them something that they want. In fact, give them something they can't resist. And so, and that's where you know, even if they don't buy from you now, they may buy from you down the road. I just thought of it, something I wanted to share with you. It took me 2 years to get into a distributor for the Safeway grocery stores. 2 years. By the way, that distributor's contact information is on that list, the U.S. retail store list that I am offering. But it took 2 years, and I called every 3 months to this buyer, and I was trying not to be annoying, but just say, hey, just checking in with you to see, you know, if there's any possibility here. And eventually, I got the product in. So I just want to tell you that you can stick with it, and that it'll be fine, and eventually you'll build these relationships with the buyers. Okay, the last bonus, and then again, I'll open it up for Q&A. Ask for what you want. When you get a hold of the buyer, whether it's by phone or email, ask for what you want, because the buyer's going to say, okay, I'll review it and I'll get back to you. Okay, that often will not happen. You won't hear from them ever again. So request, ask for what you want. Ask for an in-person meeting if you live nearby. Ask if they'll review your product sample. Ask if you're doing a trade show and you know that they're going to be attending. Ask if you can set up a meeting and get it on the calendar. If they are not the right buyer, even if you've gone through the first tip number 1, and you thought they were the appropriate buyer, but see, buyers often change their categories, ask who the appropriate buyer is, and don't be afraid to ask for an introduction. I mean, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And make sure that you have a follow-up date. So if they say, oh, I'm going to review it and I'll get back to you, say, okay, if I don't hear from you, I'll follow up with you next Wednesday at 2 o'clock. And then follow up when you say, okay, make sure that they know that they're on the hook with you and they know that you're going to follow up, okay? They're not just going to disappear. And then if you're feeling like they're just like blowing you off and they're like, well, I like it, but, you know, I'm not sure it's the right fit for the store, offer a test. Say, I'll give you 100 units to test in your stores, and I'll give it to you on consignment. So if they sell, great. then we are starting our partnership together. If they don't sell, fine. Then I'll pay for shipping to get the products back to me, or whatever you decide to do. But offer a test. I have gotten my foot in the door so many times by offering a test on consignment, and then the product is done well, and then we're good to go. And then the purchase orders start coming in. So with that said, I'm opening it up now for questions. So I'll jump on over to the chat. So if you have questions, make sure that you're in the chat room and sending me questions that way. Okay, let me start here. Scroll down, just give me a second. Okay, now I'm just trying to start with from the bottom. Okay, good. Okay, it says, Monica says, where do you recommend getting product liability insurance? One of the best resources to get started with product liability insurance is if you already have insurance, like if you have an insurance broker for your home insurance, or if you have life insurance, or any type of insurance that you personally have, that is the best place to start, because you already have a relationship with that broker. Even if they don't offer product liability insurance, they can then refer you to someone who, and then now it's a referral to that person who offers that type of service. So that's a great place to start. If you don't have that relationship already, another great way to go is to the industry that makes sense for your product. So if you have a juvenile product, for example, you can go to the Juvenile Products, jpma.org, Juvenile Products Association, Manufacturing Association, and they have right there on their website people that offer product liability insurance. And so go to the industry that makes sense for your product, whether it's housewares or beauty products or whatever it is. There's going to be an industry association. Go to the association, and if you're not seeing it listed anywhere, then contact the members, the president or the contact person for the members area, because the contact for the members area is always looking for new members. So if you contact them and you're asking them questions and they're being helpful, you may join their membership. And so they oftentimes will give you, that's another little tip there, by the way, they'll often give you information that you're seeking because they're hoping that you'll join. So that's another really good place for you to start. I hope that helps. Okay, Stacy, if giving 50%, okay. Retail, okay, let me read this to you so you all can hear. If 50% discount will only profit you $4, retail 30, wholesale 15, and cost 11, would you still do the 50%? Because, okay, I'm not talking about a 50% discount. I'm talking about 50% margin. Okay, that's different, because you've got to just think about, work backwards. What's the logical retail price for your product? So if it's $15 for your retail price, then you cut that number in half. Okay, so that's $15, and that is what's called that's their wholesale price. That $15 is now your wholesale price, because the retailer wants to buy it from you for 15 bucks and then double it, which is 100% markup. So they want to, that's how it works. So you've got to work backwards from your retail price, and then you make sure after your production cost that there's enough money left over for you. So I hope that helps. Okay, other questions? Okay, Karen, for testing, is it cheaper to certify for EEC compliance when you're doing North America? You should definitely go to the intertech.com and ask these questions, because I'm not an expert in the testing area, so you definitely, I mean, I've gotten lots of testing on all my products, but I don't have an answer to your question. It's really best for you to go ahead and go to one of those testing sites and ask them if about what makes most sense in terms of being compliant. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Okay, and Andy, hi Andy. Okay, when contacting a buyer, what is the best way to communicate? Email, phone call, LinkedIn, and if you do email, what's the best way to catch their attention? So they open the email. Aha, Andy, you've touched on one of my favorite topics, and I call it the wow factor email. In fact, in one of the free webinars that I already gave, you can find it on my YouTube channel, tamaramonosoff.com/YouTube. I share exactly what needs to be in your wow factor email. So you want to have a really catchy headline, subject headline. So, for example, one of the mentees, and Ann Hurley, if you're on this call, I'm sharing your story. Ann has given me permission to share this story. Ann had been in business for 2 years and had really hit some roadblocks. And we had a half-an-hour call together, and we came up with a hot subject title for her email. So I asked her the question, so I'm asking you this now, so you all can be thinking about this. What kind of a wow has happened for you? And I asked her, what are the most sales that you've ever had? And she said, well, on a Daily Deal website, she sold 300 units in 3 hours. And I said, wow. Now that is a wow factor, okay? So put that in your subject heading. I said, what else has been kind of a wow or amazing thing? And she said, well, Gwyneth Paltrow tweeted about the product. And I said, what? So I said, there you have it right there. So she was able to say Gwyneth Paltrow raves about, and she put in her product name and then sold 300 units in 3 hours. Then the key here is your product demo video. You have to do this because people are visual. So you've got to embed that right into the email or put it on YouTube and then put a link to it in your email, and have a quick product demo, and make sure it's under 2 minutes because nobody wants to watch beyond 2 minutes in a product demo, and shorter the better. And show and say, click to watch how the name of your product works. And then that's where underneath that you're going to be able to say 50% margin. In fact, someone who just listened to one of these free webinars a couple of weeks ago used one of my tactics, and that was she was able to say that she, in her email to a Walmart buyer, a local buyer, said, hey, I'm able to give you 50% margin. And he was not going to take a meeting with her, but when she said that, she got the meeting. So she's had a second meeting in just the last 2 weeks. So really think about how to make your emails hot and spicy with video and your subject heading so people can't help but want to open it up and look. If you've never had any sales before, think about what's really cool about your product and put that in the subject heading. Something really, interesting about your product that's different from anything else, and that's a great way to get started. So I hope that helps. We are over 2 minutes, but I will stay on. I want to thank everyone for joining. I will stay on for a few more minutes and answer some more questions, but I want to thank you for being a part of the Business Boost workshop. I hope that these tips have served you well, and I look forward to seeing you the next time. And I will answer some more questions. So, Bob, can you secure a guaranteed buy from retailer, or will they require a buyback for any reason? Bob, it depends on the retailer. So this is really good to ask ahead of time because you don't want to have any surprises. Usually you cannot secure a guaranteed buy from a retailer. They don't want to be put into that position. And I did have one time a buyback situation early on because I didn't know to ask that question, and it was with a drugstore. And I don't know if you've worked with drugstores, and it was a national chain, and it was tough. They had so many rules and requirements, and they have buyback issues. So my suggestion is ask. Make sure you ask that question and make sure that you don't get yourself into that situation. Let me tell you, there are so many options and opportunities available for you today in retail. It is thrilling. In fact, I don't even think I expressed that enough, because you can definitely get into stores that don't have these kind of strict requirements. And catalogs, by the way, are golden. I got my first order for $100,000 from a catalog that I had never even heard of, which is also on the catalog list. And so I really encourage you to not get yourself into retail stores that are being difficult, but in fact, really embracing the fact that there are so many great opportunities online now that simply didn't exist when I started out. So I hope that that helps. Okay, thank you all so much, and I really wish you the very best, and hopefully we'll see you on the next Business Boost workshop. Take care, everyone.